Hello, I'm Dr. Diana Bitner. I am physician, chief medical officer, and co-founder of True Women's Health. I'm an OBGYN. I've been in practice for almost 30 years now, and I am so excited to welcome you to this conversation. Tonight, we're going to talk with our newest partner at True, Dr. Celia Egan, about weight loss beyond the scale. So I'm so excited. You're going to love this conversation. Before I introduce Dr. Egan again to you all, I want to tell you our next episode is September 8th. It is Fresh Start into Fall. Summer will be winding down. It will be talking about us getting back into the swing of things with what that looks like in terms of approaching good health in the fall. And we can get all of our act back together and move on toward the holidays. So again, I am so excited to have Dr. Egan with us tonight to talk about weight loss beyond the scale. For those of you who were on last episode, you got to meet Dr. Egan. We had a fun conversation, and it really allowed you to get to know her. We've had great comments and lots of feedback. And for those of you who didn't get to meet her at that episode, it's in our recorded episodes on Facebook Live and YouTube. So please check out that introductory video. But tonight, I am just, again, so excited because you get to learn her approach to weight loss. And like all of us at True, our goal is to get to know you, but more than anything, that you get to know you. And we want to foster a functional, healthy approach to weight loss. We have such opportunity. This has been such a difficult conversation. And again, I look forward to hearing my aha moment around helping patients with weight loss, Dr. Egan's aha moment, and again, her philosophy as she leads this team at True Women's Health. Again, we have such opportunity, and I care about this because when I invented Waypoints, I wanted to bring in the subject of weight because it's a medical condition. Just like depression, it has factors that cause it. It has consequences that happen because of it. It is a complicated, multifactorial thing. It involves our psychological state, our physical state, our family history, our genetics, our daily habits, things that we're stressed about. And unfortunately, it's not just seen as a medical condition, right? Just like depression can affect someone's self-worth, their sense of their ability to function. Weight is the same thing. And unfortunately, it's seen and it's taken on as someone's self-worth or value, or we attach so much stuff to weight other than it's a medical condition. And again, having Dr. Egan here as our expert in this field can really help us understand it and then offer new approaches. So with all that, I could keep talking forever, but with all that, I want you to meet Dr. Egan. So welcome, Celia.
Hi.
And, I look forward to this conversation.
Yeah, anytime we can talk about weight, it's a good conversation.
I love it. And so just getting right into it, we have so much to cover tonight. We've got some points we want to hit because you and I can get talking about this. So just to keep us really organized, I want to get started with this conversation around kind of our aha moments and how shame has been part of the conversation for too long.
Yeah, I mean, I think, as an internist in primary care, I think numerous times women have come to my office, sometimes in tears, just sort of being like, I can't do this. Everything that I've read or been told I'm doing, yet it's not happening. What's wrong with me? Why can't I put the cookie down? What's going on? And so it really was just kind of over the slow time that I've been working, it's been kind of like, why can't people do this? Why can't women turn down cookies, right? And I'm right there with everyone else, right? That when I'm at a party or something and I see things, I always make a joke. I know what healthy eating is, right? But there's times that I can't make those choices. Why? What's going on? And I really created the structure for how I kind of treat women and try to optimize different aspects of their life.
Sure. Well, I tend to eat when I'm overwhelmed, and it's just like, I don't want to do anything. I don't know where to start with my task. So I'm just going to eat.
Yeah.
But I love this, that you came up with. Do you want to talk about what's up on the screen? This is just, it's just genius.
Yeah, what we talk about a lot is my weight loss pyramid. So, what we say is you got to do the outside first and then the inside. So when someone comes to me and they're like, I need help losing weight, and a variety of other things that are going on with weight, we start with this first. So I say, first, we have to work on our relationship with food, which is our mindset. What is our mind space around our eating habits? What is my relationship with food? Do I lean on food to cope with other emotions that I'm having way too much than I should? The second piece is meals. So, what is healthy eating for me? Do I know how to get there? Meaning, do I know where to find that food? Can I afford it? How do I cook it? How do I make it tasty? And then the other piece is medications. Believe it or not, there's a lot of weight gaining medications, meaning these are medicines that we take that put the body in a weight gaining state. And there's a lot of new drugs out there that help women lose weight. Some of them are actually old that we use for weight loss and for controlling our mindset around food. And then, of course, as Dr. Bitner's favorite piece is optimizing all of our hormones that are in our body, particularly our sex hormones. So that's what we start with in the outside. And I think it's important to start there because a common scenario that we see is a lot of women will come to the office and they'll say, I'm trying to lose weight. I'm just going to walk more, right? I'm just going to throw a couple extra miles. And although I love walking and I think walking is great for a variety of different reasons, that's not where I would get started for people. And I think the most bang for your buck is to start on the outside of the pyramid. So once we've sort of optimized the outside, then we talk about the inside. Are you getting enough sleep? How is your stress level? And are you able to handle the different situations that come on in life? And are you able to find serenity? And are you physically stable? Are you exercising? Are you lifting weights? Is your heart strong? Are your joints flexible and in a good place to handle further workouts and to handle some sort of accident? So we start on the outside and then we move in the inside. Of course, all stress, sleep, exercise, those things are important, but let's start with the outside first and kind of move in, and then we go from there. And I think a lot of, patients here at True will smile because a lot of this is kind of about, they hear the ringing of seeds in there, right? Sleeping, making sure we're eating the right things, making sure we're getting enough water. Are we doing our metered breathing and finding serenity with where we're at? So I think, obviously, Dr. Bitner and I have a lot of similar thoughts about how women should get healthy and wellness.
Yeah, we're just so on the same page. And again, as we look at that pyramid, again, it just reminds me when I was early in practice, women would say to me all the time, like, I gained like 25 pounds and I have no idea why. And I used to roll my eyes internally, of course, and think, how can you not know how you gained 25 pounds? Like, you must have just eaten so much for so long. And then it really dawned on me after some time that first maybe 8 pounds makes sense, right? You sprained your knee, you were on vacation, you were taking care of a sick grandma.
Super stressful event, right?
Right?
Yeah.
That makes sense. But then once you gain that 8 pounds, then your body goes into storage mode, right? So it's just then that, from 8 to 25, it just comes on so fast.
Yeah.
Really, it doesn't make sense. They'll say, I was doing the same stuff.
Yeah.
But now we know, right? You were in storage mode.
Yeah. And I actually love that example because there's actually even a piece beyond that, which is one, your body does do all those things that, like, it does put your body in storage mode, or weight gaining state, as I like to say.
Sure.
And then the second piece is the more we tend to be in a stressful event, the harder it is to then turn down those super yummy, high sugar, high fat, highly processed foods. And so it kind of creates this double whammy where our body biologically is ready to gain weight, right? But then our mind is like totally ready for those hits that come from having an Oreo or having, McDonald's French fries and the shake together, right? And so then our brain and our body are like, yes, let's do it. Like, let's gain weight. And then it almost becomes this out of control cycle. Then we feel terrible. We go to McDonald's, we have our fries, and then in our head, we're like, oh, I really shouldn't have done that. Right. And now I feel bad and I don't know what to do. And then your body's like, I have an answer for that. It's more fries. And then you just get into this vicious cycle and it's really frustrating.
It is. And it's so common. And that's why I love that mindset is across the top. And hey, Cheryl, how are you? I'm so glad you joined us. This is so fun to see, names of patients from years ago. And here we are. So thanks for joining. But I love that mindset is right across the top, right? Because that's the first place to start.
And one of the things that I even joke around with patients for a weight loss doctor, I actually care about weight the least. And I talk to a lot of women about maybe our first thing should just be letting go of a number and what we should and shouldn't be, right? And just even our mindset for ourselves and our relationship with food. And let's just start with, I want to have a better relationship with food. That's it. Right.
Yep.
That's all we're going to work on in this next chunk of time. And let's see how that goes. And let's just talk about that.
Well, and again, it's like building the foundation. If we don't do that, then to your point, we can't get to the inside of that pyramid.
Yeah. And I think, unfortunately, I mean, we've seen this in media, like The Biggest Loser, and people have seen it with their own friends that, I mean, I can get anyone to lose weight quickly. Right. And we can starve you and we can run you to death. But honestly, medically, that's arguably not the best thing. And actually, it's been shown in research papers when they've gone back to look at the people who are on those like weight loss shows, is they actually probably damage their hypothalamus and their overall metabolism slowed down like weeks later. And a lot of them regained all the weight and even more so. And so, it's really frustrating to see that, because you wish that we could just be like, just work out harder, if only, right? But It's just a little bit more complicated.
And it's not great for the liver to have that rapid weight gain, right? So in terms of increasing the risk for fatty liver. And so again, I think one of my favorite things is when I see patients have aha moments, like, oh, I get it, and again, our goal is to help people understand their situation and then to offer options. We're not here to tell anyone what to do. It's to offer these options and say, hey, we'll support you in what you choose. And if it doesn't work, let's try something else.
Yeah,
our number one goal is safety first.
Yeah.
Happy
absolutely.
second.
Yeah.
Safety first.
Yeah.
So, again, you were just talking like women, they're in this lifelong battle, right? Like, I just hope we can change this conversation so it's not a battle.
Right. And I always kind of give this analogy a little bit with when we talk about our relationship with food, because I think that that's where a lot of this comes. And I think if exercising were the answer, like I think a lot of women would just be like, yeah, like if you told me that I just had to do an hour of exercise every day, I probably would do it. Right. But a lot of women struggle. They're like, well, it's not going to help and I'm going to hurt. So why would I do that? Right. And that doesn't make any sense. So one of the first steps is working on our relationship with food. And what I like to tell women is that you have to have with food an old married couple. You like food, right? If they're around, that's great, right? But this is not a teenage love fest, right? This is not I love you, I can't live without you, you're all I think about, like there's nothing more than being with you, right? And this is not like the dreaded wicked divorce situation, which is, I don't want to see you again. I don't ever want to talk to you again. I don't want to think about you. It can't be either of those extremes. It's got to be this old married couple. Yeah, I like you sometimes, and that's great. But you know what? Sometimes we just got to chill out.
I think you and I are both the queens of analogies, but it really helps, in terms of how we can talk about this and, keep it light, keep it fun, but it can be really serious issues. And in this lifelong battle people have, I think you just hit on one of the challenges. If we don't see progress, if we don't see that there's a difference, so many women just give up. Had a patient recently who said, I'll do anything, for a bit, I cannot eat for a while, but then that doesn't seem to work. I did a grain-free thing that worked the best, but I couldn't sustain it, And so it's finding and really understanding one's genetics, family history, body check. So for example, we ask women, did you have diabetes in pregnancy? Yeah. Because that will put you at risk for diabetes and insulin resistance and weight gain in the perimenopause, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think genetics usually plays out a lot with one, how our brain is wired, how our liver is able to function with the different kind of foods that we have. And that definitely plays a major role in helping us make what food choices would be good for that patient, and trying to tailor that a little bit and personalize their nutritional plan. So I definitely think that's helpful. I mean, culturally, there's, people eat different things for different reasons. And I think that should be respected and honored. But sometimes maybe also together reflected. I had a patient who, it was a religious holiday for her. And then this is when I used to see husbands and wives together, and they were both of the same religion. And she was telling me that she had to make 12 different types of cookies for her holiday. And her husband looked at her and goes, "No, you don't." And I said, "Do you?" I don't, this is not my religion. And I said, "Do you?" And she sat there and she said, "I guess we always did." And her husband said, "But maybe we can just make 3 of those types. And next year we'll make another 3. And the following year we'll make another 3. And maybe that's okay because I'm there with my family and we're celebrating what we believe in together. And that is enough. And 3 different types, not 12, is actually probably going to be okay." And kind of just sitting with that feeling because it feels uncomfortable, but maybe it's for the best.
I agree. And it's changing our habits. And we talk a lot about barriers. So like lifestyle habits, if you're a busy mom or you're working a busy career at 60 and, if you're just don't have time for meal prep in a certain period of your life. And if you don't have time to pack your lunch and you don't have time, like that's a barrier. It doesn't mean an excuse. It doesn't mean you're weak or incapable. It's just it's a barrier. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, I do feel like women in particular can feel a bit overwhelmed with the recommendations because it does feel like, oh my gosh, if I'm not like picking my own green beans and making my own almond milk, like I'm not doing it, so forget it, right? And I think you and I both know because we live in that space that I think you and I both are not picking our own green beans at every moment, that it's just not realistic. So how can we come up with a plan that works for you?
Exactly. Yeah. And then there's the hormones, that's another factor is as our hormones change. So for example, women ask me, why do I crave sugar right before my period? Mm-hmm. Well, the most simplistic way to think about it is estrogen takes a dip, there's more insulin resistance. Or if estrogen takes a dip and you don't sleep very well for a couple nights, there's more insulin resistance and more craving. And I know I'm simplifying, but just as a way to think about it, there really is a reason that happens. And so if you know it's coming and you have appropriate expectations, it's then having intention. The 2 days before my period, I'm going to have intention. I'm going to stay full of healthy protein, eat lots of veggies, feel full. I'm going to try to go to bed early.
Yeah. And another thing I like to work with women is, that I describe it as the ping to eat. Boy, it's not very honest, is it? Right? If that ping to eat was always our body telling us that it needed calories, we probably wouldn't run into a lot of the problems that we run into. Right. And so one of the things that's really helpful is to even just start sorting this out in your mind, right? I have that ping to eat. What is this? Is this hunger? Like my belly's empty and it's growling and I haven't eaten in hours and my body, it's really asking for energy? Or is this just a craving? A craving is the I wants. I want sugar, I want salt, I just want food, I want crunch, I want to eat, whatever, right? And so sometimes it can be helpful to say, this is hunger, or no, I had dinner and it's 7 p.m. and this is a craving, right? And sitting with a craving can be really challenging, but even learning how to process through that mentally of being like, nothing's going to happen on the other end of a craving if I'm not hungry, if I don't fulfill that. How am I going to feel in 5 minutes? How am I going to feel in 10 minutes? What can I do to replace that feeling and still feel satisfied? We talk about going for a walk, drinking glasses of water, having a nice cup of tea, all these other different things to work on the craving. And I think when you start separating this out in your head, you can feel confident of saying, I'm hungry. I should eat now, right? My belly is empty. And this is what feeling hungry feels like. Mm-hmm. Or, no, this is a craving. Yeah. What am I going to do? Right. And I'm confident not eating in this moment, but eating at other times.
And I think just naming it, it's like, when you have like your 3 boys, right? Use your words, name the emotion, don't just scream and cry about it. Name the emotion. So if we can just name it and just pause for 2 seconds. I don't know about you. Sometimes I'm out to dinner, might have a glass of wine. And am I hungry for dessert? No. And if the waiter comes by and I can just for 2 seconds say, no, thank you, and they're gone, I don't think about it again. But if I go, well, forget it. It's done.
If they bring the tray, forget it, right? We're doing the eyes and the nose and the whole thing. Yeah.
lots of pings, right?
Yeah, lots of pings.
Lots of pings. And so it's just if people can just pause for just a minute. It's like people who smoke. I'll just say, can you just pause for a minute and just say, I'm going to get 5 more minutes without a cigarette, 10 more minutes without a cigarette. And then all of a sudden you get to a half an hour and you just cut back 2 cigarettes for the day.
Yeah. I mean, they're all similar. It's all similar brain chemistry, right? These different feelings. And I think one of the take home messages for today, which I think is super helpful, is just the notion that ping to eat may not be honest, right? It's not always just your body wants energy.
I love it.
And just being okay with that thought of like, okay. Right. And that's where we're here to help you understand that more, to provide resources for you if you're struggling with one area or another. There's also just, a lot of times we just eat out of obligation, right? Like, I don't know, your mom brings you a blueberry pie and you don't even like blueberry pie. You're not hungry. You don't even want it, but it's your mom and she brought it over and there we are, right? You're going to have a piece.
Or people like
in that space.
Yeah. And like people too will say just in social situations, or let's say, people start to, snowbirds go down to Florida for the winter. And it's like every evening there's people over with food, with alcohol. Like I'm drinking way more than I want to, but I feel obligated socially to kind of do what everybody else is doing. So it's having that conversation ready, or just having a club soda in your hand. It's like, right away, just being confident and whatever, but it's, I get it. Just real quick, I just see everybody coming in on the side, hey, Jenny, hey, Margie, I just love this. Hey, Patricia, feel free to ask questions, you guys, as we're talking. Just put your questions up in the comments and we'll definitely get it. And Margie, what did you say? Love the statement that the thing to eat is not always honest.
Yeah, I think that really resonates with people, because it's even the thought. And I think it took me a while to wrap my mind around that, to be like, wait a minute, this is not actually accurate, right? And what is this feeling that I'm having, and kind of understanding it a little bit more.
No, that is so powerful. So again, everybody, feel free to chime in with questions.
Yeah, and in that vein, a lot of the times, this also is helpful medically. So a lot of the drugs are tailored towards, what are you struggling with? Are you struggling with hunger? Is this cravings? What's going on? And then once we have a better understanding of that, then that can help me then work with you to make a better medication choice, instead of just, fishing in the air for random drugs.
No, I love that point. Is it anxiety? Like me, when I don't overeat much anymore, I finally have gotten very honest about my pings, but it could be being overwhelmed. So if I feel overwhelmed, now I know, clean the desk, make a list.
Yeah.
Don't get something to snack on.
Yeah.
So I just really learned that.
Yeah. And our brain is really interesting in a sense that, it doesn't want us to feel uncomfortable, right? It doesn't, right? Our brain really is trying to protect us. And so what it does is it relies on the things that it knows. And so if you grew up in a way that, and I'm right there with everyone else, right? I always get this like Saturday morning and I'm eating cereal and there's cartoons and it's my mom and it's not school. And here I am and comforted, right? My brain remembers all that. So now that I'm an adult, right? And I had a bad day at work and I come home, well, what's my brain going to do? It doesn't have answers for, I don't know, my fight with my husband, my screaming kids, my crazy work, right? It's like, do you know what we should do?
Captain Crunch.
Probably should go eat some more food, right? And that's where all that stuff floods in. And then you're like, oh, I'm hungry. I must eat. Like, and it creates just kind of this mess. And so that's why mindset is so important, and that we're here to kind of help women tease this all out.
Yes. And I also want us to bring up the point about women who have eating disorders. It's so common.
Yeah.
It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's a very common condition. What is the number? I've got it written down.
Yeah,
65% of American women.
Yeah.
And so how do you factor this into your day-to-day? How do you help women?
Yeah. I mean, I think
you ask them.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's one of the prime things that comes out in conversation. We hope to present a safe space that women feel open and confident to talk about those issues. And if if they really feel like they're struggling either with really restrictive eating patterns or binge eating, which is actually probably one of the more common disordered eating that we see. And, we have different pathways for nutritional guides and different medications that we can use. And of course, we have Ashley, who's our licensed therapist that, is great at kind of helping sort out some of these emotions. And so we really like to create a safe space that we can explore these in a guilt-free way.
Right.
Because I know women feel guilty after they do this, right? And I know you've talked to women that have come and sort of told their story about binge eating, and I've talked to many women about it, and I know they feel guilty, and they really shouldn't. And we're here to help.
Yeah, it doesn't mean you're less than. It doesn't mean that you are broken. You don't need to be fixed. It's a condition. There are factors that come into it, and with time and sorting it out, there are things that we can do to help. And I've had a lot of moms who come in and say, I really want to get this under control because I don't want my kids to
be an example for their kids.
Yeah, I want to be a good example for my kids, and I don't want my kids to pick up on. I mean, I can, binge after they're asleep, and but I just it changes my relationship with food, and I really want to get this figured out. So I love helping women with this, and again, to your point, Ashley can really help people sort this out.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times it's sort of a two-way process, right? So one is dealing with that feeling in the moment of, I really want to binge. What am I going to do? And two, how do I deal with all the things that led me there? Right. So if my toddler is screaming in the store, a lot of us moms and women are like, ooh, file that back for later. Right. And then it comes out as, an urge to binge or an urge to drink or an urge to do something that maybe isn't the healthiest. But in the moment of being like, and that's where the metered breathing comes in. This is okay. I'm going to survive. All toddlers scream and cry at some point and embarrass their mothers, right? And then it's not backlogged for later. We got to be in the present moment now and deal with it, kind of whatever this emotion or trigger is in the moment. And hopefully that's what Ashley can help people with.
Yes. And to name it. And that's where the gratitude comes in as well, right? It gets us out of that flight or fight response where, we say and do stupid, unhealthy things when we're in flight or fight because we disconnect from our logical part of our brain. Yeah, right. So, and then just a quick gratitude. I love the work by Dr. Benson, who just teaches us that if we can just stop and say something we're thankful for, think about something we're so thankful for, it gets us out of flight or fight. We reconnect with our smart part and we make a better decision.
Yeah. It's very interesting, isn't it?
Love it. Yes.
And then there was a question about how do you lose weight when you've gained a lot over the years of prednisone use? I was told steroid weight is harder to lose. That is true. Prednisone, which is a steroid, is a weight gainer medication. I think a lot of it starts with maybe looking at other medications that we can use to help women to lose weight, and kind of looking at different dietary changes. So it's very patient specific. And, steroids unfortunately do the double whammy, which is they make you want to eat food and they put your body in a biochemical place to gain weight. So it is a little bit more complicated than the average situation. But, we always just try with starting with the pyramid for a lot of patients and figuring out which areas we can work on.
Nice. And there's another question from Angie.
How do our PINGs work with weight loss surgery? I think that's a really interesting question. So, our PINGs change based off the different foods that we eat. So if you're eating a diet, which again, high sugar, high processed food, those PINGs are probably gonna get louder, right? And if you go on vacation, that first day you come back, you're kind of like, geez, I am starving, right? Like, what is this? It's because you probably were eating foods that had more sugar, had more fat, or more processed. So based off of the different foods we eat changes the way that our brain wants food. So if you have weight loss surgery, the mere fact that your stomach is just smaller, which is what weight loss surgery is, either they're surgically removing your stomach or they're using some sort of device to shorten or minimize the size of your stomach, you just can't eat that much. So that also can change the way that your brain thinks about the PINGs. I will say one caveat. I refer people to bariatric surgery all the time. And I think that is definitely a medical treatment or a surgical treatment for obesity. But the research has shown people who struggle with binge eating tend to regain weight with bariatric surgery. So if you want to have bariatric surgery, one of the things I think that's most helpful is to work on your mindset, your relationship with food, work with a therapist, work with us, work with the medications to figure that piece out before you have weight loss surgery, because that really needs to be optimize as much as we possibly can before we have you see the bariatric surgeon, or working, with the bariatric surgeon together before you have surgery.
I love that. And I want to take a first stab at Carlin's question. Hey, Carlin, I'm so glad you're on. I miss seeing you. But thoughts on intermittent fasting. And the one caveat I'd like to add before you do is I just have not seen it work well in women in menopause, because again, sometimes I'm intimidated to talk about this with Dr. Egan because I don't want to say, the biochemistry wrong, but I'll just say teleological, what kind of makes sense. And what I've seen from my experience is that, when women do intermittent fasting, especially when it's, let's say, with these short feeding windows, and feel free to push back, Celia, it's like when we're so hungry, and especially with estrogen making us, let's say, insulin resistant, and let's say that we didn't sleep well because of night sweats from, menopause symptoms, and then we intermittent fast, and then by the time we allow ourselves a feeding window, then we're starving, and then we just eat way too much, and then we go back to starving. So, I just go back to. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So I think that there is some truth to that. And I think that the studies with intermittent fasting, when they haven't seen it be particularly helpful, is when people, what we call breaking the fast, kind of go a bit bonkers, right? And they really overdo the high fat, high sugary foods and think of that time as a completely free time when they can eat whatever they want. That probably doesn't hold true. I think the concept of, should we eat all the time always? Probably not. And I think that there's some interesting theories behind like just eating within a time frame. So you're not eating all day, right? So if you wake up at 6 a.m. and then you're eating from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m., you're not really ever having a time when you're not consuming calories and sugars and things. So there is some thought of why that may work. There's, in the obesity medicine world, they have seen some good results with intermittent fasting. And I think it's very, very patient specific. So I agree with you. If someone's feeling tortured, that when they get to their window, they're like ravenous and that they feel like they can't make it. And I've had some patients tell me like they almost like fainted because they were like trying to fast and it wasn't working and they like couldn't go outside and garden. I don't think that that's maybe working for that patient. I think for some people, I think it's a good plan if nothing else has worked. And I like people to start with like even 12-hour blocks of just say you're going to eat between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., right? Just start there. See how you feel, right? See if you can do it. Right? Because a lot of people end up consuming a lot of calories after, women in particular, after dinner, right? Like they have dinner and then they feel like they need a bowl of popcorn or that bowl of ice cream or something like that. And so it's like, just cut that out first. See how you do. See how you feel.
Well, I remember being at the menopause meeting and hearing a really good presentation on the fast 24 hours once a week versus that feeding window. And, we talk about different programs. For a medical weight loss program, we use Robar food. I really like the Isogenics program. And I like how Isogenics has the cleanse or the support during the 24 hours once a week. And for me, when I need to reset that 24 hours once a week, it reminds me I don't need that much food. It reminds me that, it's just a good feeling, and it's really effective. Again, in the literature, I saw a study that compared, women who did intermittent fasting, 1 24-hour period a week versus a healthy diet versus just regular food. And it really was more effective even than just a heart healthy diet. Again, when they also then ate a heart healthy diet on their regular days.
Yeah. I think there's a couple of key concepts. One, we can't eat all the time, like all day, all night, right? I think that that's probably true, right? 2, that ping to eat can be manipulated with periods of fasting, right? Which is, I think, what you've hinted at. And 3, if you're going to break your fast, you can't go completely bonkers and like have like a whole pizza and, tons of dessert and soda, like some of these big gun things that we know probably aren't the best. Like maybe you could, have a little bit more bread than you thought you initially could or something of that, arena, but it's definitely not
A free
like
for all.
open passageway for eating during this 2-hour block.
Exactly. So what I'd like to do now before we get into our 5 tips is talk a bit about our programs, because it really is possible that women can live their life with a healthy weight, no matter how old they are when they start. So Dr. Egan, I'd love you to explain our programs.
Yeah. So we have a couple of different programs for people, and a lot of it's patient driven, meaning how much time you want to spend and what kind of treatment plans you want. So our first program is called the True Weight Journey Ultimate Program. This program really utilizes meal replacements in exchange for your normal grocery food that you would buy. And so instead of eating grocery food, we'd have you have a meal replacement, which is like a protein shake with all the micronutrients that you need for a day. And it tends to be a little bit lower calorie to kind of accelerate weight loss. Because obviously this seems a bit medically intensive, you got to be seen every week. So we get labs and an EKG, and we really watch you very closely as we talk about your pain to eat and work on your mindset and seeing if any other weight loss medications would be helpful. So it's 1 week for 12 weeks.
And a time, right, where minimal exercise, right? This is a time where
we really pull back a lot on physical activity. So if it were something that you were like, I'm training for a marathon, this would not really be something that you'd want to do. Mm-mm. Yeah. I think it's almost like a reset, right? Okay. Let me, for a couple of weeks, not have to go to the pantry and make a food choice. Let me, for a couple of weeks, not have to think about every meal that I'm going to be making, right? Because I want to gain some understanding of, what's healthy for me. Where do my labs fall? Can I do this, right? Can I just have, minimal amounts of food for a couple of weeks? Is this possible?
Yeah, and not have to make choices, right? I'm sorry, just not have to make choices.
Yeah, not to make choices. I mean, the fact that when you open up the fridge and you're staring at all the food your partner has or your kids, I mean, it's just tough, right? And you're trying to eat healthy.
It is. Yeah. Laura has a question. Are the programs only for women? At True Women's Health, yes, they are.
Yeah.
But Dr. Egan knows what she's doing for men and women.
Yeah.
And I think that experience is good, because when women come to see us, often they might have a male partner or a son in the house. And, just having Dr. Egan's experience taking care of men as well. Yeah. Not that she's treating the partner at the time, but it's
well, I will tell you what ends up happening is inevitably the women who are usually cooking for their partners, or, just like bring the education into the house, and then like their usually their male partners or husbands will lose 3 times as much weight, which adds the complexity of women and weight. And they're like, wait a minute.
Exactly. Well, again, the menopause doesn't tend to happen until 60, right? So as their testosterone goes down, they get the little gut, then they get the little insulin resistance. And I mean, that happens at 60, but until then they can stop eating treats for a week and, just lose it.
Frustrating.
I know. Barb has a good question. You want to answer?
Yeah. So Barb asks, can you come in for just a consult? Yeah, of course. So we have a couple different we have a consultation, just 1 hour if you're not a patient of ours. And then if you're a complete patient, you can come on in and I'll chat with you, for an hour about which weight loss plan would make sense.
Perfect. Yeah. We've had a lot of requests for that, and it just made sense.
And then Jenny asked, low calories, what range of calories? So it really depends on what you'd like to do. So the lowest, which is a complete meal replacement plan, which is no grocery food, is about 800 calories. But that does not mean you have to do that. There's a couple of other ways to add in food and other meal replacements if you felt uncomfortable going that low. Believe it or not, actually, a lot of people miss chewing, which is a common complaint of being on a very low calorie diet. And so we talk about ways to add like a meal or, a snack or something to kind of let people chew a little bit, which can bump up the calories a little bit more.
Cool. So what's our second program?
So our second program is called the Fresh Start program. So this is for someone that's like, you know what, that seems a little intense. I cannot do weekly visits. I don't really want to change my exercise plan. So why don't we do once a month? We'll touch base for 6 months, and we'll start doing a lot of the stuff that we talk about in our pyramid. We'll talk about your mindset. We may or may not add a weight loss medication, and we'll start educating and talking about the logistics of making a good food choice. And so we're kind of here to be your guide in the Fresh Start program and seeing what resources you need to kind of get to where you want to be.
Sweet. It makes so much sense. And, as I think about this too, we're so much on the same page in terms of this, our team-based care. I picture the woman in the middle, and then all of us are around her to support.
Yeah.
So if you would talk about how does all of our team interact with patients in the weight loss journey?
Yeah. So, not only do patients meet with me, but they also meet with our licensed therapist who, kind of talks about different stress management and goes deeper if we need to about disordered eating or general anxiety or major depression. Then we also have a nutritional coach and a chef who works on a lot of the logistics of making good food choices. I mean, it can feel a little bit like, am I just having boiled chicken and boiled spinach every day? And it's like, no, there's a lot of great ways to make food taste good, to get it, from the grocery store to your house and make it manageable with a busy schedule. So we have a lot of folks to provide those resources.
Yeah,
We
Anna's
also have,
amazing.
oh, and Anna is amazing. Yeah. We also have a physical therapist. So, a lot of women are like, I really want to, they think of their picture of self as moving more, right? Either running again, going on a longer bike ride, starting to lift weights, but they hurt. And that's a terrible feeling. And it can be really a big barrier. So we also have a physical therapist here that would help us kind of figure out what is the best way to get women back on their feet and get stable again.
Exactly. And then just, having Suzanne, our PA, with her functional medicine background is just critical.
Absolutely. And I think one of the main threads of functional medicine is twofold. One is optimizing thyroid. And because I think, modern medicine does not a great job of thyroid. I don't think we have a great understanding. And I love the functional medicine approach to trying to get all the right vitamins on board to make our thyroid really function well. And two is optimizing our microbiome, which is all the bacteria that live in our GI tract that help us digest food. There you go. Yeah, that help us digest all our food and actually probably do a lot more than that, but we're just not quite privy to it yet. And that's what I think functional medicine does a great job at, is supporting those two areas. And so I love having Suzanne on board because her perspective is really imperative.
It is. Sweet. So yes, especially for the Ultimate program, there's a book, our patients know, I love you to have something in your hand. So you'll have a binder that has all your information in it, what to expect at each visit, recording your experience as you go through. So you'll actually have something in your hand to really help guide your process, and you get to track your progress.
Yeah.
So Cheryl's asking where we're located. Cheryl, we are in Grand Rapids. We're on the corner of Burton and Cascade, in just lovely space. I have pictured this office for years in my mind, and to walk into work every day. When Dr. Egan first saw it, I was so proud to show her. It feels like a spa. We love working there. Our patients love being there. The rooms are very comfortable. The chairs are comfy. There's spa music playing. We'll get you some tea or some green drink or some, so it's just a lovely place. So it's 2144 East Paris, Suite 230. So we'd love you to come see. We have patients who will come for a brief meet and greet all the time, just to get a sense of how we're so different from everyone else.
Oh, and then Chelsea left a beautiful comment. Thank you so much. We love all good feedback. And that's really our goal, is to help women feel supported. So thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much. Oh, thank you, Missy, for putting that up. Yes. It's so good.
And then just a really quick wrap, our last program is the Motivate program. This is for patients who have been through one of the other two programs. They were started on a weight loss drug. They love their PCP, so they don't want to leave, but they don't know what to do with that medication. And that's where they'd come in, a couple visits a year. We'd make sure that they were staying safe, make sure that medication was still working for them, and to make sure we didn't need to make any other adjustments. And that's just like a more short visit that once you've completed the other two programs.
Perfect. And I can't believe we're already at 44 minutes. So let's move into the 5 tips. And we're going to cover a couple more things people have asked about. So the 5 tips, number 1, a woman's phase of ovarian function impacts weight gain and loss. And I think we've covered this already a bit, but so many women come in and they've gained that 15 to 20 pounds in the menopause transition. So first of all, I love seeing women before they're in menopause transition. So when women just start to get the feeling that things are different, they say, I'm gaining weight and I'm doing the same thing. Well, it's because your body's changing. And so when that first starts to happen, it's the time to get your act together and figure it out. That first hot flash, I want you to see as a gift, because it means this is only going to get harder. It's time to get it together. And again, most women gain 15 to 30 pounds in that menopause transition, and it all tends to be around the middle. It's that back fat, it's that bra fat, it's that menopause. And women just hate that. And then because of that, then there's chin hair, there's fatigue, there's hair loss. So we want to get on top of all that before it happens. And so I love Dr. Egan was going to her first North American Menopause Society.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
This fall.
Yeah.
We talk about way more than menopause, I promise. It's about gender-specific health. But she's studying her textbook on menopause, and not to pressure, but I know you'll pass your test with flying colors and you become a certified menopause provider as well. So again, I get to learn from Dr. Egan. She can learn from us in terms of menopause management, and then together we can take really good care of you.
Yeah, I think it's actually kind of fascinating how much, as an internist, that I don't know about menopause, even though that's a majority of the people that I saw were women. So the fact that it's not really ingrained in internal medicine is kind of fascinating. And so we're really hoping to bridge those two gaps together.
No, I love it. And yeah, so it's just a really big deal. And I had a thought and it's gone. So tip number 2. It's all about barriers, right? Like, these are not excuses. Like, I'm busy, I'm taking care of everyone but myself. I had a patient today. She said, I feel guilty that I'm thinking about taking care of myself. And I'm like, are you kidding? If you don't take care of yourself, how are you supposed to meet all these other obligations that you care about?
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. And sometimes it even can just be helpful in terms of weight loss and making good food choices, even just knowing what you're going into, right? My mom's coming over and she's bringing a pie. How am I going to handle this, right? And just sitting with that feeling and kind of coming up with different scenarios in your head. That's okay to think about that. It's way better to do that than have half the pie, feel guilty, and then not know what to do with yourself.
Exactly. Well, the other night I had friends invite me over for dinner, and I just prepared for it. I ate really smart during the day, and she's an amazing cook, and I knew that it would be lovely. And so I just kept my portion small, but I still had a sliver of her lemon curd ice cream pie stuff. And I enjoyed it, and I walked away. I didn't feel guilty. Yeah. And, it was lovely. So it's just preparing, and I think having that intention, but it's saying, yep, there's a barrier. And then what am I going to do about it?
Yeah.
Tip number 3. You want to take this one?
There are ways to navigate making changes to reach your goal. Yeah. And I think one of the most important thing is thinking about that ping to eat. What is that, right? It's not honest. What is it? Is it hunger? Is it a craving? Am I doing this out of obligation? And just starting there, I think, is the best way to even make a change. We're not even to the changing part. We're just naming what's going on.
I love that. Tip number 4.
Mindfulness-based eating techniques are not woo-woo.
I
think that's true.
What's that?
I think it's how long ago? 5 years ago, when this was sort of brought up to me. Oh my gosh, I'm like a type A, you better prove it to me type of person. And when someone started talking about this, I gave it like one hard eye roll, right? Of just like, oh please. And the more I got into the science and kind of experiencing it and going through the classes, I really changed my opinion about it. I counsel people a lot about it. I do get some pushback that, oh, I'm just going to meditate and lose weight. And I don't think that that's what we're trying to say. I think that there's different pieces to eating that need to be explored. And I think mindfulness is one way to kind of to explore that.
And it's real and it works and it's not woo-woo.
Yeah.
And tip number 5. There are new medications.
So there are new FDA drugs. So if anyone's read the media recently, and a couple months ago now, they approved a new drug called Wegovy that actually had pretty great results in terms of weight loss. So in the weight loss world, we talk about people losing weight in body weight percentages. So people lost up to about 15 to 20% was the average, some up to 40, some just 10, but still that's a huge number. So if you weighed 200 pounds, 20% is 40 pounds, which seems like a lot. This drug, the feedback that I've gotten from patients who are on it is people just tend to not feel hungry. They really, that like ping to eat dies down both from hunger and cravings. And they just, have less interest in food. They feel fuller faster, and they're just able to make better food choices. So there's a lot of great science that's out there. Our biggest barrier currently is just getting insurance coverage for these things, but we continue to watch that. I honestly watch it on a day-by-day basis of waiting for these different things to come out, and that we can provide, kind of the best care for people.
No, I love it. And again, it's just all about finding the right solution for each person. And it's true. I love how we can
is not the best option for every person. It's a choice for a lot of people, and it's probably an option for a lot of people, but not every person. And we try to help people figure that out.
No, I love that. And again, I love too how you've just embraced our Waypoints picture of self. It's helping people come up with what is your goal at a milestone event in the future, and how do you want to picture? I love really when people oh, wow, okay, I'm going to think about my son's high school graduation. What do I want to wear? How do I want to feel? I had a patient say, I want to wear a little sundress and my arms, look good, feel good. So it's like having that goal. And then again, how can we work toward, helping someone reach that? So the next thing I always love to move into are, especially if you're not here in Michigan, for us to take care of you, 5 questions that you can ask your provider. These are things that I think you deserve to know. And, we all have specialties in medicine. We all have our lanes. And I think that if we don't know an answer to a question, it's important that we say, I don't know. And one of my solutions was to say, Dr. Egan, I hope you decide to take a job here at True. So, this isn't my lane. The drugs are not my lane. And so to keep you all safe and to give you the best options, we're so lucky to have Dr. Egan. So 5 questions I want you to be able to ask your provider. I'll take the first one. I hone on this every time. I want you to ask, what is my phase of ovarian function? I think it should be right in the medical statement. You are a 45-year-old, you've been pregnant 2 times, and you're in early perimenopause. Because the phase of ovarian function will really help dictate your symptoms such as sleep, mood, sex drive, all those things around your hormones, your appetite, those pings, right? Celia, I see you nodding.
Absolutely.
It's so important.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. And like I said, it's not something that we internists typically think about. And so I do think the more I learn about menopause, it's imperative to know kind of what's going on.
Love it. Question number 2. You've got to ask people, what is your training and your support options? Dr. Egan is board certified in obesity medicine. She knows what she's talking about. If you ask me what's your training, I'm like, lots of good experience. And so I'm going to limit what I'll recommend or what I'll say. You've got to ask people. How do you feel about this?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the barriers to women getting the appropriate medications is that a lot of people are uncomfortable using them, particularly some of the newer drugs, which are injectables. And so people are just like, ugh, no thanks. So just because maybe your primary care doctor doesn't know which drug is the best drug for you or how to use it or how to administer it doesn't mean that isn't your best drug. So, either you can, I definitely go to, we brought this up last time, but if you're not in Michigan or in the Grand Rapids area, going to the ABOM or the American Board of Obesity Medicine, they have a whole list of people who are all board certified across the country that you could find a local provider and seeing if they could help you out with some of the weight loss drugs and some of this other nutritional counseling.
Good. And, certainly I do not mean any disrespect to my colleagues, but again, it's just so important to advocate for yourself as a patient and say, if you don't know the answer to this, it's okay. Please help me find the answers or go to the website that we'll put up here in the comments.
I mean, I think the reality is that this has become really complex, just like cancer, just like heart disease, and that it's just hard to stay on top of it when you're in primary care. I mean, we live in primary care.
Right.
So it's, when you're trying to get all this encompassed together, it can just be a little bit difficult. And some people don't have interest in nutrition and food and thinking about the logistics of eating. I happen to have a personal interest. So that's what drove me into this field, but that's okay. And so finding, someone who's excited about it is always a good option.
It is. Plus we have so much fun with this. I talked to a patient today and I'm like, isn't this so fun? She's like, oh my God, I could just stay here and hang out and talk about all this. Question number 3, I want you to ask, why am I gaining weight? It's not just eat less, move more. so it's so important to be able to do that deeper dive. Did you have diabetes in pregnancy? Is there a family history? Talking about mindful eating, right, Celia?
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah, absolutely. Are there medications I'm taking that can cause me to gain weight, right? If you're on 4 of the, big 10, then that's probably something we should evaluate if it's really bothering you, the extra weight gain. So I think kind of naming what's going on is really helpful. And I think, women deserve that to have an answer to why they're gaining weight. I can't
I
say we
agree.
always know every answer, but I think it's at least worth an exercise in trying to figure it out.
Exactly. I mean, a patient who comes to mind is, I told her, if you don't sleep, you will not lose weight. And she finally, bless her heart, went to, had a sleep study, and she has severe sleep apnea. So now that we've uncovered, the cause of her not sleeping, and she's using a CPAP, she's like, oh my God. I mean, she feels different. She doesn't crave food like she did. She doesn't want to overeat. She has more energy. She's more likely to go exercise. I mean, that CPAP will change her life, and hopefully she'll be able to lose weight, get healthier, and not have to use that thing anymore. But right now it's a lifesaver. So there are real reasons. And she's like, I so didn't want to go for the sleep study. So I'm so glad you pushed me and kept on me to get that done. It will turn her life around. I see a question from Lori. What big 10?
I think it was some of the big 10 weight gaining medications. I mean, we've already alluded to one. Steroids can be prednisone, dexamethasone. Those can be weight gainers. Some of the pain medications can be weight gainers. I'm going to more speak in classes just because I think it'd be difficult without a clinical situation to just rattle off some medicines. So some of the cardiac meds can be weight gainers. A lot of the diabetes medicines, believe it or not, are actually weight gainers. Some of the allergy medications, and then a lot of the mood medications can be weight gainers.
So yes, Good job. Okay, question number 4. I want you to be able to ask your healthcare provider, can you help me with a plan that's sustainable? Who's on your team that can then help me with this?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think always talking to nutritionists can be helpful. A lot of nutritionists have their own personal beliefs about weight and weight management. So sometimes that can, change perspective on what's going on. I always think finding a good therapist, if you're struggling with binge eating, is a must, and starting some sort of therapy and understanding a little bit of what's going on.
I just smiled a bit, and we shouldn't even maybe shouldn't even mention this, but we've talked about how people get their beliefs about food. It's almost like politics, like
it is
never this,
absolutely,
always that. No.
Yeah, I know it can be challenging because I even laugh. I actually prep people for when we start making dietary changes. I'm like, your family members and your coworkers are all going to have an opinion about this, right? They're going to be like, that doctor is killing you. They don't know what they're talking about. This is how you do it. You should never do it this way. And it's just so interesting that people have such strong reactions to food and food changes, what's healthy eating. And I think it's helpful just to know, food is so ingrained in our lives. And so to cut it out completely and say, you're never going to have this way probably isn't feasible because it's so ingrained in our culture and our lives. But at the same time, it needs to be respected because it's also very powerful. And so, just finding that balance between where are you culturally, let's dig into some, let's find some answers about what is healthy for you based off of your labs and other medical conditions. And let's go from there.
Perfect. And question number 5, I think this is critical. How does my current weight support a healthy future? So as we help people develop their picture of self, which is again, an event in the future, let's talk about my weight more than my appearance or what size jeans I'm wearing. How does my weight impact my health? It's so important.
Yeah. I mean, I could speak. That's probably a talk for a different day.
Yes, exactly.
All the different ways that, having extra weight can impact our health. Right. And I sort of think about it for 2 different ways, which is one is kind of the actual physical structure of the weight on our body. And then 2, the metabolic role. So how is this interacting with my blood sugars and my liver and my blood pressure and my cholesterol levels? How is that interacting? And is that making my overall clinical situation worse?
Exactly. I love that. And yeah, Cheryl, like you're saying, there's just so many different ways to look at this. And so again, we really like to personalize this plan. So again, Dr. Egan, thank you so much. This has been just a great conversation. Please, everyone, share this with your friends and family. If nothing else, just this great information. You can go to trueweightjourney.com, and that's just a direct link to our programs and feeds into our overall website. So we just look forward to supporting women and transforming women's health in terms of how we take care of ourselves and how we talk about weight.
Yeah.
So,
and if anything, please come in just for a consult to meet us. And we just love to meet you.
Oh, that's lovely. And so just to remind you all, our next episode of Let's Chat is Fresh Start for Fall on Wednesday, September 8th. So please bookmark it. If you bookmark it on Facebook or YouTube, it'll show up in your feed right away. So you don't have to worry that you're going to miss it. So
Diana,
thank you, everyone.
Fall already? I can't believe it. I said it almost fall already.
I can't believe it. Yes.
I know.
All right.
All right.
Everyone,
Thanks so much.
thank you. Take care. Stay safe.
Yep. Bye-bye.